friends, we have Dr. MR Venkatesh back with us after a very long time. And of course, he's not been sitting quiet. He's written his fifth book, which we will be discussing today. Welcome, MR.
Namaste. Pleasure being on your show, Meena.
Yeah. So today, friends, we'll be discussing this book which he has written. Plus, we'll just touch on points of what's happening in Dharmasthala. So perhaps MR can give us, some more idea as to what is happening there. So before we go on to that, let me just introduce uh, MRV and his literary career. So Dr. MR Venkatesh is one of India's leading advocates on economic and criminal law. He is also a keen student of economics and politics. As a professional, he has been an advisor to several corporates and promotes on complex transactions involving cross-disciplinary expertise. His book, Sensex and Sentiments, Failure of India's Financial Sentinels by KW Publishers in 2011 has been acknowledged by experts as a pioneering work in combating money laundering. MRV, as he's fondly called by his friends, is a rare breed of advocate who brings trans-professional approach to the table. Recognized for his professional integrity and acumen, he was a ranker in the final examinations of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. His doctoral thesis was on the issue of agricultural subsidies with Shastra University. His other books include Global Imbalances and the Impending Dollar Crisis. And Dr. Manmohan Singh, A Decade of Decay by Rare Book Publishers in 2013, and Retaining Balance, The Eternal Way by KW Publishers in 2021. MRV is a much sought after panelist and can be spotted on leading Indian news channels. He is also a regular contributor to various print publications. So one thing I'd like to tell you, friends, is that more than anything, MR is a very good friend and a well-wisher. Whenever there are some things that trouble me, he is the first one that I reach out to, and his advice is always very logical, and it has helped me many a times. So thank you for that, MR. Also,
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah. So MR, this is your fifth book, and we're very proud of what you've been doing, sitting away from the limelight. Now, before we start on the book itself, let me just ask you a few things about what's happening in Dharmasthala, because that's quite a strange issue that's happening, and it is many people are confused with what's happening. Now, the seers cite Dharmasthala Row, and they urge Amit Shah for law to protect the saints and their temples. Seers and community leaders from across India have urged Amit Shah to enact a law safeguarding saints and religious institutions, citing Dharmasthala, Palghar, and Belagavi incidents as alarming examples. Seers and communities have also said that if these places are not safeguarded, these places of worship, from these repeated assaults, both physical and digital, then our Sanatana Dharma is going to suffer big time. So, MR, if we go on to that, if you could speak on this.
See, in 2017, when Ramnathji Kovind was elected as the president, one of the names that I personally suggested was of that of Hegadeji. And I suggested Virendraji Hegade could be the president of this country because of what Dharmasthala was doing and what he was doing personally. So I must confess that I'm a great devotee of that sthala. I'm a great devotee of Hegadeji. And in 22, I think I had the opportunity of visiting, or 23, I had the good opportunity of visiting the sthala and meeting Hegadeji personally. During the meeting, I had warned him, warned not in the English sense, but some sort of foreboding that, look, your sthala could be under attack by the conversion mafia, by forces that are not very conducive to Sanatana Dharma, and those who are not very happy what you are doing, the all-round progress that you are giving to that area, some sort of a semi-government or a private government that he was doing. And I was so enamored by what he was doing. I said, this is going to be your threat. Your success is your threat. Now, I see a pattern in what has happened in Dharmasthala. You begin with Kanchi Matam in 2004. Then there has been attacks on Mata Amritanandamayi's ashram. As you very rightly said, Palghar. As you very rightly said, Belgavi. Probably you take Jaggi Vasudev ashram in Coimbatore. That comes under attack almost every year in the name of his ashram being built in the elephant corridor and whatnot. And in all these things, there is a uniform storyline that is brought out, which is that young girls disappear. There is innuendo about sex, there's something about rape, young girls being brainwashed, and parents unable to stop them, and then titillate the viewers, readers, and let their imagination run riot. And so that at the end of the day, you come about and say, look, all these things require some sort of investigation. Now, I am on record before Dharmastala's adhikaris that, look, your sthala will be under attack in a TV channel interview in Kannada channel. Now, what has happened is, unfortunately, my prophecy has turned true. And I foresaw this to some extent. I don't know whether I must candidly admit in your speech, in your show, that this was no clairvoyance. This was sheer cold-blooded analysis of what it was going to happen. And that is what worries me, irks me, is that today we are all saying, oh, this has happened. We are not looking at the pattern. And the pattern seems to be subvert or put all Hindu institutions of some great religious importance under some sort of pressure. And I have just today in our office, probably around 7 o'clock, we completed a petition to the Human Rights Commission on Dharmasthala, and I hope in the next a day or two before the weekend, we have a long weekend this week, we hope to file it with the Honorable Human Rights Commission and see that either the central government comes out with a CBI or a NIA probe. I wouldn't want anything less. Nothing is going to satisfy me. Anything less than this is not going to satisfy. But having said that, I do not know why the Home Minister, who is one of the most brilliant politicians we have come across in the last 15, 20 years, is still silent on this and is indecisive. He can still do it suo moto. But anyhow, whatever be his political compulsions or legal compulsions, we are not here to comment on it. And I hope that the Human Rights Commission will take the matter to a logical conclusion. I hope the courts will decisively interfere and ensure justice is being done. I hope the SIT formed either out of the NIA or the CBI will go to the root of the matter. There is a conversion mafia allegedly that is working to defame all these Hindu institutions. I hope the right-minded media personnel see through this chicanery. I hope that they see the conspiracy. I hope they see the fraud, and hope that this great institutions, unfortunately, they are supposed to protect us. They are supposed to guide us. They are the institutions where we are all supposed to get our inspirations. Get the legal protection, get the protection from the courts, from the state, and ensure that they continue to do what they do best, which is to inspire the common people. And I pray that this should be the last instance, because every time I see this type of attacks, the faiths don't erode. It is not that the faith erodes, But what happens is the functioning of India as a state, the government of India comes under increasing question. We start questioning the functioning of the state. After all, we didn't get independence to show that Shabrimala or Mata Amritanandamayi's ashram or Sri Sri's ashram or Jaggi Vasudev's ashram come under attacks by some conversion mafia. So we need to look into this and put a full stop.
Yeah. So Sunita is saying, and nobody talks about our Hindu girls cut into pieces and stored in the refrigerator. In fact, a few days back, I was just thinking, Shraddha Walker's case has just disappeared from the scene. Nobody's talking about it and what kind of punishment, her killer, her, lover got. So these are all things that are hidden all the time. And then there's another point that Sunita is making. Sunita is saying during these days of Ganesh Visarjan, we hear that police cautioning the procession to carry on within some distance only. Is the secularism only for Hindus in India?
Well, secularism is only for Hindus. If you read the Article 25 to 30 of the Indian Constitution, and that is where my book is also dwelling. The title of the book, Discovery and Bharat, Christian Constitution in a Hindu Nation, talks about this particular thing. That when it comes to Shabrimala, for instance, we have public morality, we want gender equality, we want constitutional morality, which is nothing but Christian morality, and packaged for Hindus. But now, no courts dare stand up and say that this is wrong in, say, Christianity, or this is not compatible with Christian, the constitutional morality. So, the point here is, unfortunately, when we got when we wrote the Constitution, when we actually started writing up, many of us where I hold all these men in great esteem, no doubt about it. But a lot of them were influenced by Christian thoughts. A lot of them were inspired by the West. And a lot of them were actually seeing the West as some sort of a role model. So we borrowed from the American Constitution, the British. Of course, British didn't have a written constitution, but the British parliamentary practices. We got the wordings fraternity, equality and liberty from French. We added justice into it. We got we the people from America. We copied the directive principles from Ireland. We got Article 21, which is the procedure established by law, from Japanese constitution, which was being written by America for the Japanese. So it was like a patch magic, think of a sari, you take some portion of it from Kanjivaram silk, some from Banaras silk, and then you have a patch magic of several saris. And then you say this is a very brilliant work. Of course, each one in its position is a brilliant work, but we did it out of compulsion, and we did out of lack of time. The country was partitioned. There's huge amount of riots going on, and we had to continue the administrative functioning. So naturally, we copied around 70% of the constitution from the 1935 Government of India Act. But after 75 years, it is sad to see that we cry and say, oh, this morning Dharmasthala is under attack. Oh, Shabrimala, the Supreme Court did not understand the nuances of what women of a particular age are not supposed to go, and trying to interfere and look at it from the constitutional lens. This is happening repeatedly. This is happening in several matters, and it is not only Ganesha going through streets of various cities for Visarjan. That is, of course, one important thing. But the larger issue is Do we see ourselves as Bharatiyas? Do we see ourselves as a civilizational state? Do we see ourselves as some sort of a continuum of the last 5,000 years? That is the challenge before us. And that confusion, unless we don't get cleared off, I think we will have repeated attacks like this.
Do you think, Mar, that Congress being, at the head of the state in Karnataka had a hand in this?
Uh, well, one cannot rule out because the Congress party of what it was, say, 30 years ago, you could have had differences with the Congress party. But its heart was in the right place. Even 30 years back, when the last president out of the Nehru Gandhi family was that Sitaram uh, Kesari. Sitaram Kesari or somebody, I forgot about his name. Then it went to Sonia Gandhi and then from Rahul Gandhi. Of course, now Mr. Kharge is the Benami president of the Congress party. Now, the Congress party has become a very strange confluence of urban Naxals, anti-national forces, Italian mafia, and of course, coupled and interspread with various other mafias, including conversion mafia. So the Congress party is no longer a political party reflecting the will and belief and aspirations of the people. It is basically a malleable tool of various special interest groups. So, when you allege whether Dharmasthala was inspired by Congress in Karnataka, I would say with a capital Y, yes. If you say, did somebody from Tamil Nadu Congress help? Is the allegation, do you think that the allegation carries some weight? I will say capital YES. Would you think that the Central Congress High Command would have been participating or would have blessed and dressed this whole deal? I would have said yes. Because today I have no faith in the Congress as a political party. And I believe Congress party is a party of various, it's a conglomeration of various mafias out to do what it wants to do without any rhyme or reason. So your guess is very good. And let us not mince our words. After all, your program's title is Candid Mira. So let us be candid about it that Congress party is the greatest threat. Having said this, the legacy of Narendra Modi, if it were to be written at 8 p.m. on this day, is that his biggest failure would be that he has not controlled the Congress party at all. Unfortunate that the Congress continues, flourishes, and does enormous damage to the Hindu Sanatana Dharma, and I will hold the BJP headed by Narendra Modi as singularly responsible for this.
What you said is very true, Emma, that see, because they base this whole thing on rape and assault on women and women being buried. Because if you look at any Hindu sage, all of them have been, the accusations they've made has all been sexually related, whether it's small children or whether it's women or different sorts. And in this way, they have managed to disperse very strong Sanatana Dharma keepers or gurus, from the front, so that their following will be reduced. But the same thing has never happened to their religions. We have never seen anyone from Islam being pulled up like this, or from Christianity being pulled up like this, despite the fact that we have seen many cases. So, how is it that only Sanatana Dharma has such cases and other religions don't have such cases?
The other religions do have, in the sense, and for a fact, I know. In fact, couple of, or probably a year ago, there were some Christian Christians who came to me for a case involving the church. So on both sides you had Christians. Now I refused to take that case. Why? Because I said, now the issue is not who is going to win. The ultimate losers will be the followers of Christianity who are the true believers in Christ. Now, if one of you are wrong, the problem is not with you guys. The problem will be seen as the problem of the church. So advise them that probably you should settle amongst yourselves. I do not know what happened after that. But here I'm making a very simple point that there are problems in every religious institutions. But a very, very cold, calculated attack seems to happen only on Hindu institutions. And whenever an attack happens on an Hindu institutions, it is in the most vulnerable part, young women and the celibacy of the guru, mother guru or the mutt's guru is being questioned. And it would seem that he was actually leading an orgy. Okay? And he was indulging in some sort of act of a desperado. Whereas people who go there, people who have seen with their own eyes, people who have seen so many lady bhaktas coming and going unscathed, now you make even those of them ask a fundamental question: is it so? And that you want the faith to wane in the larger public domain so that you can make your own assault on the institution at a later date.
Yeah.
I have only one thing to say. Sanatana Dharma is not nearly 5,000, 8,000 years old. The 129th verse of the 10th canto of the Rig Veda is what is called as the Naisadiya Suktam. It asks a profound question: before creation, what was it? Did God come first, or did creation come first, or time come first? And we have the courage to ask such questions. What was it before the Lord came in? And we can answer this in a philosophical manner. So don't try to be foolish enough to eradicate or try or talk about eradicating Sanatana Dharma, because Sanatana Dharma has withstood all such attacks. And it will be, despite your attacks, it will go stronger. But only thing is, we as people who are contemporaneously living through the attacks have to perform our duty as the Bhagavad Gita says. I have no problem that the Hindu religion will survive all of us, and it will go to the 22nd, 23rd, 24th century, and it will have its own relevance at that time. But what are we going to do to protect the Hindu Dharma? We are not protecting in the sense we are not going to champion or we are going to protect like a baby is protected by a mother. But we have a duty to perform. That is what is my query. The Hindu Dharma will protect itself. We don't have to do much about it. So the larger question, therefore, that stares at us at this point is why such attacks, and what is it that the people of the day going to do? What is it that the government of the day going to do? The government of the day has to take some severe steps, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's move on to your book, MR. And the title of the book is Discovery and Bharat, Christian Constitution in a Hindu Nation by Dr. MR. So this is his latest book, which is his fifth book. And we're very curious to know, MR, is it available on, which platform?
Yeah, it will be shortly it's under print now, and probably Amazon and Garuda Publications are the publishers of this book. So from their website also pre-ordering can be done, and already they have put up the links, so it will be available in Garuda Publication, and of course quite a few bookstores they are lining up.
Yeah. So let's move on to the first question. Now, you describe the Indian Constitution as being heavily influenced by Western legal traditions. particularly those from Christendom. Can you provide some specific examples of clauses or principles that you see as having a distinctly Christian or Western origin?
Okay, my answer to this is that when my first book, Global Imbalance, was released on 1st September 2008, Gurmurti ji was invited to give a speech, and he traces the very idea of socialism to Anabaptist Church. And I have traced it in this book also. I have detailed it how this has happened. A priest goes on to the belief that he says Christ is going to come and the Renaissance is going to happen, but nothing happens. So he ups the ante, says we are all impure. Why Christ is unable to come back is because we are all impure and we are all sinners and we have too much of lust on our properties and we have to give away our properties. And he goes on to even suggest that the nationalization of wife must be followed, that there must be a complete breakdown of family and family values and systems. Women must be nationalized, and a town full of old leering men were very happy with such a suggestion that they could take on the women, whichever whom they want. And this is the beginning of socialism. And it has got distinctive Anabaptist Christian roots. Now, you can say socialism is an economic idea. Where does it link to Christianity? It is. And it is linked and heavily linked. So these are the links that I bring about in my book and demonstrates how you asked for an example, so I'm giving socialism.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, you make a powerful distinction between India as a newly born nation and a wounded civilization. Could you elaborate on this concept and explain why this distinction is so central to your argument?
Okay, 15th August 1947, several of us have heard and read the great speech by Pandit Nehru, Tryst with Destiny, where he says, a wounded nation, which is long asleep, will be awakened to life and freedom. Now, there are two things. He himself concedes it is a living nation, but it is asleep. He never says that we are a newly formed nation, we are all coming together. It is a nation that is there for eternity. It is asleep. That he concedes. So no other proof than Nehru himself saying this. And if you look at it, when the soul of the nation, he uses the word soul of the nation in that speech. Now in Discovery of India, incidentally, Nehru also says that I don't believe in something called a soul. But in the Tryst with Destiny speech, he believes in the soul. So when it comes to India, two things are palpable. That it has a soul, it is a living nation, and it has a civilizational past. And these are what made it a nation. It was its culture, its civilization is what it made as a nation. Now, we had several Rajyas in several times. Right from Ramarajya, perhaps even before Rama, there were emperors, there were kings, there was Vijayanagaram Empire, there was Shivaji Maharaj in contemporary or near contemporary times. We had Cholas, the Pallavas, the Kanishkas. Now, let us assume that somebody was doing Sankalpa, which is what shall I say, the determination to do a prayer. It was always Bharata Varshe, Bharata Kande, Meroho, Dakshine Parte, the whole thing. It was never Chola Rajye, Pallava Rajye, Vijayanagara Rajye, Kanishka Rajye. It was never linked to the Rajyas. So we had three very clear distinctions: Rajyam, Raja, and Rashtra. All the three were very clear, and we know that our loyalty has to be only to the Rashtram first, then to the Rajyam next, and then to the Raja next. So if we had a very clear hierarchical understanding, we never conflated the 2 or 3 uh, points of building up this narrative. And civilizationally, when it came to making the constitution, we borrowed not only from the British, American, French, German, Irish, Japanese constitutions, Canada constitution, even Australian constitution. We never said to ourselves, the great people who were there, and on this, let us not try to look at the great leaders who wrote them, which includes Nehru, Ambedkar, Sardar Patel, includes Maulana Azad, Rajaji, who was giving them advice. All of them had almost a unitary view that we need not look back into what India could offer in terms of organizing our public polity. And probably the word Ramrajya, which was used as to explain to people what could be the independence look like. And people were told you were promised Ramrajya by our Congress leaders. Were never told you will be given a socialist, secularist country after 1947. So you understand, they were told you will be given Ramrajya. There were only 2 words. Likewise, people said Vande Mataram. What is that Mataram? Vande Mataram? It is that you place the nation above everything else. The hierarchy begins with nation. What is that you will get after independence? Ramrajya. And this was uniform. Now today it may be that politically we may think that Patel belongs to the right and Nehru belongs to the left. No, they were all unitary in their view. But they did have a flaw. And I am saying, considering even in my book, that that flaw is well understood. It is well recognized that the great men did the great work at that point in time. But 75 years later, that we have grown so much. We are now different. We are now amongst the top 2-3 economies in the world. We are a global leader. If we have to go for the next level of influence in the global setup, this constitution will not help us. This constitution doesn't help India emerge as what is called as the Vishwaguru. It makes us, in every sense of the term, a poor carbon copy of all these nations, or an amalgam of all these nations. So my view is, take good things from this constitution. There are several good things about this constitution, no doubt about it. But there are several issues on which civilizationally and for administrative and for other purposes, this constitution is hollow. So we need to plug wherever it is hollow and move forward.
Okay. Now, the book posts that the Constitution has created a fundamental conflict between the Indian state and its society. What does this conflict look like in a day-to-day life? Can you give us a tangible example of this tension being played out?
Well, I spoke about Dharmasthala, we spoke about Shabarimala. These are all conflicts that today you want to manage Hindu temples. Northerners may not understand this in a big way, but we Southerners do, that there are several temples. Probably Tamil Nadu has 40,000 temples under the government control. Now, can you have 40,000 mosques or 40,000 church under the government control? You only see that the Hindu temples have to be controlled. Now you have officers coming of the government sitting, and some of them well-meaning. I have no issues. But this raises a fundamental question. Now you enter this temple, then you take the money out of this temple and then say, I am giving and managing this temple. Then you say this is a secular work that is being done by the government. And then you say women cannot enter. This rule that women cannot enter infringes on the constitutional morality. Now, who asked you to come into the Shabarimala in the first place? Did we? Nobody said. Shabarimala was managed before 1947. And it was managed pretty well. You enter Chidambaram temple and you say that I want to manage this. You enter into Kabalishwara temple and you say you want to manage. You enter into Meenakshi temple and say you want to manage. Why do you want to manage Hindu temples? Why temples? Now the question is, temples are the centripetal force of our culture, of our donation, of our charity, of the way we put all our resources together to manage colleges, education, health, chowdhuries, travel. So many things get arranged by the temple. That's why temples in every village became so important. And the rule of law prevalent during time immemorial, I am told by scholars who have done extraordinary work on this, is that whenever a Raja in our land attacks another kingdom, temple, women, children, aged people, handicapped people will never be attacked. Temple will be the first one not to be attacked. This was turned upside down when the Islamic attacks happened, when the first target was temple and the second target was women. So age-old practices, the temple will be the place of the functional society, gave way to dilapidation and to deprivation, and leave it to the society, and society will manage their own temples. And there are hundreds of temples, thousands of temples which are being managed outside of the HRNC. And so, if you wanted one example, I'm telling you just one. This moves to health, this moves to education, this moves to so many other dimensions of life where the constitution imposes certain rules, regulation, rigors only for those which are called non-minority institutions, whereas minorities are given that protection under Article 29, 30 and all, that they can continue to do whatever they do. I'm not saying they're doing a bad job. I'm only saying this is something that makes the majority inferior in this country to the minorities. Nowhere in the world, in the garb of protecting minorities, you have gone on to devalue the majority. And that is a fatal genetic flaw in this constitution.
But in Chennai, the courts have said that the government cannot control, the funds of the temples, and wasn't that
No, no.
recently?
No. That would be on a particular issue, on a particular thing. There are hundreds of cases in Madras High Court, including its Madurai bench, some of which I personally appear and do it for some very well-meaning people like Mr. Ramesh and others. The whole challenge is how does the money get used? You will be shocked that the type of money that is being taken out by the government in terms of auditing. And every temple, and the moment you have even denominational temple like Chidambaram, there are always attacks on the denominational temple like Chidambaram, where the government wants some hook or crook, some or the other smuggle itself to the management of these temples. So there are certain issues, and the HRNC Act of Tamil Nadu was under challenge. Almost for 10 years, the Supreme Court sat on it, and for some good reason, I do not know, has asked all these matters to be looked into by the High Courts, and the challenges are now pending at the High Court level. I hope somewhere next 1 or 2 years we will see that the High Courts listens to us, and somewhere down the line we will get rid of the HRNC Act in substantial measure.
Moving on to the next question, the book concludes with a plea for re-evaluation of the Constitution. In practical terms, what would this re-evaluation look like? Are you calling for a new Constitution or for a different way of interpreting the current one?
Well, both are possible. But frankly, I would like to begin with writing the Constitution in, say, an Indian language rather than in English. Because a language conveys certain words and meanings. For instance, the word dharma is incapable of being translated into English. Punya, Purushartha, these are all very difficult, or I would even put it as impossible. Just like the Japanese word Bushido. Bushido, I can translate into English and show that it is the precept of the knighthoods or the samurais in Japan. It's a code, it's the highest code of living. But believe me, it is like having sambar in a five-star hotel in the north of this country. You can't get the definitive sambar unless you come to the south and have it in one of the 3 or 4 states of south that sambars are made. So language is important. Idioms and phrases are important. Uh, how do you actually convey to your people is very important. For some strange reason, we wrote our constitution in 1946 to 1949 in English. I'm told that the Hindi version came 40 years later in 1987. Now, for instance, the word denomination is given in the Hindi translation as sampradaya. Now, denomination in the Christian world, you would be surprised to know that there is no church which is a church simpliciter. It is either a Catholic church or a Protestant church or a Seventh-day Adventist, so on and so forth. I had discussions with Christian scholars, and they tell me there are 45,000 denominations of church. And all that sigma is equivalent to the church. Now, some of them don't take anything, or some of these churches have nothing to do with the Pope. And it's only the Catholic Christianity that has linkages with the Pope. But in India, to word ourselves as to say the Shaiva denomination or the Vaishnava denomination or the Kartikeya denomination is stupid, because we can, for instance, if you belong to the one denomination, from baptism to burial, you have to live with the church. Okay, whereas I can go to a Shiva Mandir in the morning, get married in a Vaishnava temple in the afternoon, go to a Sai Baba temple in the evening, probably even go to a mass or the fifth Rosanna or whatever they say about performing the namaz. I can do that. Nobody is going to say that you are not a Hindu or you don't belong to a denomination. There is no Chinese walls, even between intra-religions, much less between going to a Shiva temple or a Vaishnava temple. So the word denomination, you see the problem when you say you are a denomination, and I say Chidambaram is a denomination temple, denominational temple. It is very difficult to argue in a court as to why Madurai Meenakshi is not a denominational temple, or why Tirupati is not a denominational temple, or it is so. Both ways it is very difficult, because the word itself is not germane to the Hindu philosophy, because we are so open. There is no bar on anybody entering a temple, and if it were, I'm also making it very clear that certain caste, especially scheduled caste people, were not allowed to certain temples. And the Temple Entry Act, which followed social reformation, and for instance in Madurai Meenakshi temple, there was a Brahmin who actually led this whole protest and got the Dalits into the temple. And these are the social reformation which has ensured that we protect our temples and take it to the larger section of the people. And that is why denominations don't have any place in India. The word denomination is antithetical and as foreign as Lord Dalhousie was to India. But we have made it as if it is an integral part of our entire conversation in India, and especially in the courts. And we grapple with a foreign idea in a foreign language in front of judges who have been educated this way for last 150 years. All of us are educated in English, so we have lost our basic roots as to what is life all about, what is creation all about, what is it this society all about. So we have to visit Vivekananda, we have to visit Aurobindo, and then only come to a conclusion as to where we are traveling as a civilization.
Interesting. Now, my last question is, how do you respond to critics who might argue that adopting a universal framework for human rights and justice is a positive thing, regardless of its origin?
Okay, if you say justice is universal, I'm glad you asked this question, Meena. There is the highest Archbishop of the Protestant Church, Reverend Tampu, who says justice is a Christian concept. Now, what do you say about that? The word justice in our preamble, according to him, owes its origin to Christianity. Now, 2000 years is where you can't predate Christ beyond 2000 years, luckily. So I have examples from Tamil Nadu where Manunidi Cholan, the great Chola king, was actually, he had a bell in his palace, and a cow came and rang the bell. So look at the type of justice that was thought about. It was not only for human beings, even a cow could understand that if there was injustice meted out to it, it could go and ring the bell in the palace, and the king was there to deliver justice. In this story, it looks like his son ran or rode the chariot so fast that the calf was killed, and the mother cow had come to Manunidi Cholan for justice. And Manunidi Cholan delivers justice by riding his own chariot on his own son, and says, "This is justice to you because you have driven your chariot rashly, and I will give you justice." It may be disproportionate in modern criminology, but there was justice. Please understand, as you say, universally, this is what I'm trying to say in my book, that fundamental rights, universal values, all have been probably codified by medieval British, English, French, American writers. Now, even if you say, again, there is nothing called monoblock Christianity. There is no Christianity which is singular. There is a French which is Catholic, American which is Protestant, and there are so many other denominations. But let us take even the larger values, like, as you said, justice, like, as you said, liberty. All these things need not be linked to European medieval writers like Thomas Hobbes or Montesquieu and others. These are all prevalent for time immemorial from in our country. Great sages, saints, scholars, leaders, thinkers, poets have expressed in several forms. Only thing, we have forgotten to celebrate them, codify them. And while writing the constitution, we thought there was nothing in our history or in our civilization that was worthy of being reproduced. So once we go back and find out, and of course, this constitution, again I repeat for the sake of good order, has extraordinary pieces of legislation which is good for all of us, good for the purposes of taking it out, but a rewriting is necessary, probably beginning in several Indian languages. Simultaneously, we can write in Kannada, Tamil, Bengali, Punjabi, probably Hindi, so on and so forth, and that would help us in understanding ourselves far better.
Yeah. So with this, we'll conclude the session. Thank you so much, MR, and I'm sure many people will find your book very interesting. And once you tell me where it's available, we will put it under for anybody who is interested to buy this book. So
No,
thank you so much, MR.
It's Garuda Prakashan's website. You can go and pre-order it.
Okay.
And it will be available in Amazon shop.
Okay. Thank you, MR. And good night and Jai Hind. Jai Shri Ram.